It is no longer draft eve. It is draft day. Somewhere Kevin Costner and lovers of terrible movies are rejoicing. Man, I'm excited. Everybody has released their final mock draft. Not the other one, as Jason Martin said this morning, not the one just for web clicks, but the one they actually want to get right. I've read, probably 12 or 13 of those today, Blaine, as I continue to, I don't know why, punish myself reading mock drafts. I'm trying to
You
find,
and everybody else, right?
of course. I'm trying to find everybody's last-minute rumors. This may be the most interesting thing that's come up, and this is a real thing. This isn't a rumor. This isn't anything. A Houston radio host tweeted this out, and I saw it get retweeted. Adam Wexler is his name. I don't know if your path ever crossed with him in your Houston days. This is what he tweeted out. This is for AFC South fans. AFC South draft picks in the top 100. The Jags have 1, 25, 33, 45, and 65. Now, who knows?
Oh.
Yeah. The Colts have 21 and 54. That's it.
Good.
Thought that would make you smile. The Titans have 22, 53, 85, and 100.
Okay, solid.
So this guy is a Houston radio host, and he tweeted this. The Texans have pick 67. That's it.
That's all they had?
In the first 100 picks, they have one, pick 67.
Oh, well,
Ladies
that's
and
good.
gentlemen,
Yeah,
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you trade first round picks. And you make some bad decisions when you're the head coach and GM. That's why a lot of the guys don't do that. But you know what I'm hearing? A rumor is that regardless of what's going on in surrounding Deshaun Watson, will be traded to the Miami Dolphins with Tua and an 18th pick.
Ooh. Oh.
That is what I'm hearing.
Boy. It's just starting the show today with some big stuff here.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's going to happen because they want a little more collateral than just that.
Yeah.
So we shall see. See what the Texans can get.
Boy, the one thing that we know today is there will be a bunch of things that happen that nobody has predicted or thought they would happen. There'll be a bunch of things that happen today that nobody's planning on. And here's the thing. We talked about this yesterday. Your team, whether it's the Titans or whoever, they're probably not going to take the dude that you think they are. And I asked the question on the Blaine and Mickey Twitter. By the way, follow us on Blaine and Mickey's Twitter. And basically asked the question, who do you want most at pick 22? And I don't even have to open it up. Most everybody said Elijah Moore, Elijah Moore, Elijah Moore, Elijah Moore. That's who they want. Well, there's a good chance they don't take that dude. There's a good chance they just take Tickle is. Or,
unfortunately for you, right?
Yes.
And your TV.
It's going to be some property that has to be damaged if that happens. But that would not surprise me at all if they just handed the card up there, take this mauler of a tackle from Oklahoma State. And as you said yesterday so eloquently, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Yeah, because I said, it's funny. Even if people don't like it, they'll that guy's pretty good. And you said, yeah, they don't have a choice. That's who their team picked. They got to ride with that guy.
Yeah, they can boo in the moment and the emotions and everything else because they all call in the name. So actually, if you go a lineman or something, most people don't know a lot about them. But I think they're going to go with the player at the time. If it's Elijah Moore, it's Elijah Moore. Right. Or if they, you know what, he's better than the guy in the second round we would take. And we'll ride with it if it's a reach a little bit. So you just never know what position group. I think that's what they did with their free agency. You're always in a better place as an organization if you can drive the best available player on your board, whether it's offensive line, D-line, DB, wide receiver. So we shall see. But we all know the skill position guys where mostly everybody knows the name of the players that you've watched them in college. So naturally, all SEC guys. I told you I would just draft all SEC guys. I'd probably be fired real quick as a GM. Because I feel like I win in two ways. I'm going to get fan base is going to enter the building. It's for business sake.
Yeah.
As well as they're all pretty good. So
who would be your number 2 conference then that you would draft?
Big Ten.
Okay. Well, they got big people too, like linemen from the Big Ten.
Because there's some years Big Ten is better than the SEC. Very rarely, but it does happen. I know where we're at. I know where we're at.
The shields,
but there
Kirby.
are some times, the Big Ten is a little bit better, just barely by a toenail. Just Buck's toenail though.
Buck is a Big Ten guy. He's an Indiana guy. By the way, Buck is still here. Brent is here. Will is here. Rich is here. There's a whole bunch of people from the zone here. Yes, Will Bowling and Will Compton. All the Wills are here. You can put that in your will if you want to, but they're all here. And where are we? We are at Tin Roof on Demumbrian. By the way, if you hung out in Nashville in your life, it's probably one of those places that you've hung out. And we'd love for you to come out and hang out today. 3HL will be on after us. We'll be here until 6 o'clock. So we would love for you to come and have a quesadilla or whatever it is that you like here, something cold to drink, whatever it is that you like here. And, man, we'll just be doing radio talk and draft today. Why don't you come and talk about it with us? We'd love that. You want to reach us today, 615-737-1045. Also, Blaine, there's cameras everywhere. We don't get this from our homes where we normally do our show, but today where
are cameras?
Will Bowling is over here putting us on the.
I'm glad you told me because I'm glad I didn't pick my nose or something.
I know you got to be ready, dude.
Oh man,
we're right
TV
there.
stuff. Oh wow, thanks for reminding me, Kirby.
Video killed the radio star.
Yeah, I do audio. Oh, that's right.
Mike Keith is set to join us at about 20 minutes after 1, so 15 minutes or a little bit less than that from now. We'll talk to the voice of the Tennessee Titans today, Oliver Hodgkinson, who was one of the first guys who did a multiple round mock draft that I saw that I thought, I don't know if people would hate that. He picked only for need. Like, he didn't pick things they didn't need this year. Sent it to you and sent it to Lucas, and Lucas was able to track this down. He is with Pro Football Network.
Yeah.
So we'll have him in the second hour of the show, and we'll talk to him about his mock draft. He covers the draft for them, so obviously there's a lot to discuss with him. To him about his mock draft. He covers the draft for them, so obviously there's a lot to discuss with him today. Think about all these dudes and ladies who signed with colleges that they'd never been to because they couldn't go visit anywhere.
Ooh,
it's a whole
that'd be tough.
There's a whole class full of kids that signed, and maybe they went on their own nickel and walked around the campus. But if you signed with somebody 7, 8, 10 states away, you couldn't fly there. You just signed with who you signed with. You Zoomed with them.
Right, you Zoom.
Well, the NFL draft's about to be a bunch of dudes who Zoom with teams. No combine. Think about how many dudes, like Caleb Farley, didn't play this year. Think about all the opt-outs. There's going to be so many dudes who have limited tape, who've never met in person with the team. I mean, we saw what happened with Isaiah Wilson. It'll be time to stop talking about him maybe after today because I'm sure they'll draft another tackle at some point. We can all move on. But that was the guy they met in how it happened. They're going to draft a bunch of dudes that maybe they saw him in passing at the Senior Bowl.
Or maybe we meet at a tin roof. They're everywhere.
There you go. Have a little something stronger than coffee. Trey Lance, there's so much talk about him, Blaine, and really maybe the biggest story since it's night one, not to people in Nashville because the Titans don't need a quarterback, but it's what happens with the quarterbacks. The mystery starts at number 3 with the 49ers. Trey Lance, people keep talking about his lack of experience. Now, he didn't opt out. His team just didn't play last year. He played 2 games in 2018. He threw 1 pass in those 2 games. So then in 2019, that was his big season. He threw 287 passes, and they played deep into the playoffs like they always do. So he wound up playing 16 games. And they basically played an exhibition game during COVID. They played 1 more game. So that's 19 total games that he played against 1AA competition. And okay, you're going to evaluate that guy. I heard Buck say earlier that 1 game of his was played over the last 400 and something days. So he's played 1 game in the last 400 plus days. And he may go number 3. And if he doesn't, then somebody's going to trade up and get him, soon. I mean, all these quarterbacks are going to go quickly because they're quarterbacks, but that's not a lot of tape.
All right. Just take his name away from it all. If I'm the GM, not unless I have a veteran quarterback that I plan to, have for another couple of years, would I even think about taking him? That's me if I'm the GM.
Yeah.
The projections and all the talent. And, I was listening to Dan Orlovsky. He says most quarterbacks have played at least 500 snaps of throwing the football before they even enter the NFL.
Okay.
He says, or somewhere there about it, he said. And that didn't even come close. And he was talking about Trey Lance.
He's like 300 and something.
Yeah, he was like Trey Lance. I mean, he said that's just really hard to say what he will be. So the only way that I would, if I'm the GM, is, as I said, is if I have a veteran quarterback that I know I got 2 years still left in him, that I can, then we're going to transfer it to give him more time to develop. But if I think I'm just going to throw him out there and draft him because of his potential without very many reps at quarterback throwing the football, I think that's tough. Now, I would probably take the late great Aaron McNair approach and probably say year 3 is the year I would plan on him actually being the starting quarterback. That's the only way I would do it.
And you know as much as guys make now who are first-round picks.
They don't do that.
The fans don't want to hear that. They want that dude out there.
Yeah. But see, where that fits is with like a team like the Falcons. If you got Matty Ice, he's got a couple years in him, still left to go. You develop him, learn how to be a pros pro and be a smart quarterback and develop. But, hey, that's why I'm sitting in this chair and the GMs and JR are sitting where they are. So that's just hard for me to do, especially in this era where everything is sped up as far as development. Quarterbacks, receivers, all these, 7-on-7s and all these, guys doing route trees and understanding how to run routes now sooner than later with all the 7-on-7. Man, that's where the quarterback is developing too.
No doubt.
They've seen everything. So why not him? What happened here?
Lots to discuss over the next couple hours. Mike Keith will join us next. We're live at Tin Roof on Demonbreun. Yeah, man, come by and see us, and we'd love to see you. And you can have a bite to eat, and we'll talk NFL draft because it is draft day, ladies and gentlemen.
With Buck Reising,
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. This guy never feels pressure. It's the Vot, Mike Keith, who joins us now. Mike, Rhett Bryan and I talk about this every time he comes on with us, just how geeked out we are about the draft, and I'll just own it, and he even owns it worse than me, and he and Coach Mack are in their bunker making their board, so they're maybe even geekier than me about it. You've been through several of these in your Titans life. You seem like a guy who never has his enthusiasm drop for the draft either. I think you like it as much as all the rest of us.
I do. You're 100% right. It's almost as exciting as getting a chance to hear Billy Joel from the Nylon Curtain there that you played coming back. It never gets old. I love it. I love the draft, and I love what it's become to our fan base. And I like to listen to your show and others and hear people talk about different things and different scenarios, and then all the wacky rumors today. And I think tonight's going to be wacky. I do not think tonight is going to be normal at all.
Well, so let's just start with this then. What's the craziest thing you've heard today or over the last, let's say, 24, 48 hours? Let's just get into some of this craziness. Why don't we?
Well, the whole thing about the Saints trading from 28 to in the top 10 is really difficult to see, because that's going to take a big chunk of change. And that's a team that has cap issues, short-term and long-term. They need players. They don't need a player. They need players. And so if they're doing that, one would figure they're going up to get a quarterback, right? I mean, you're not trading off part of your future for a corner or an edge rusher, are you?
Maybe. You never know, man.
Mike Keith joins us, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, right here on Blaine and Mickey on first round draft day of the NFL draft.
Well, Mike, I love having you on because I always want to get a little insight into the preparation of what you do, because that's also vital, and you make it sound so easy. So I'm wondering, what did you do differently preparing for the draft compared to, I guess, a game or a preseason game or NFL game or any other game that you broadcast?
Blaine, it's not real different from the standpoint that the first thing you have to know is you've got to memorize all the names and how to pronounce them.
Yeah.
And the difference in game week is I don't have numbers that I have to memorize, but in my role, it's still as simple as that at the beginning, because I've got to be able to lead the discussion by knowing who the players are. And so I've been trying to learn about 400 names over the course of the last, several weeks, and, figure out what their school is and what their position is and all those sorts of things. And, it doesn't sound very exciting because Mickey talks about Rhett and Coach Mack being in the bunker, making their boards and all of that. And I think that would be a lot of fun. But in my role, Blaine, that's really not my job.
Right.
My job is to sort of lead the discussion and, know about the teams and know about some of the needs and, understand some of the salary cap issues that teams have and why they would make certain moves in that way. I leave he's got a live arm and he's got great length and this, that, and the other
right.
to those guys, because they know it better than I do. And B, somebody's just sort of got to stir the drink a little bit. And that's kind of my job.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Everybody has a role, and to me, yours is tougher than theirs because it's all off the cuff through your preparation. I guess first and foremost, JR's, I would say, done a really good job. You can give him a B+, can't give him an A as a GM at this point in time. But what makes him different than most of the GMs that you've worked with in the past to make him so
he was
successful?
A coach to start with. He was a coach. That's where he began his career. And then he was a scout. And he was deep into scouting as well as, and still, I mean, if you watch him at practice, he still looks like a coach with how he goes at it. And he still provides instruction. And you see it at some of the pro days. I think there's a functional knowledge. I think there is a personal knowledge of how the business part of it works and how you build a roster. I think he's sort of the total package when it comes to a GM, because most of the GMs come from a position where they've been maybe they've just been personnel, and so they don't know as much about the coaching aspect. The difference, the coaches want one thing, and the personnel people often want something else. I think John is one of the few GMs that understands the entirety of that discussion between the two sides.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I completely agree with that. Outside of the Titans pick, what else are you looking forward to when it comes to the draft?
What teams?
Yeah, what are you looking forward to about the whole draft, really? Thinking about where 3 or 4 does?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to when we get to about 10 and Dallas, where it all goes. Because I think once we get past 10, 11, 12, I think it starts to take a very different shape. I think some of the guys that we've seen in the mock drafts much later in the first round will be taken higher because people will have better grades on them due to the fact that they graded some other guys down on their medicals. I think later in the round, you will see guys who get drafted who were not mentioned in many mocks as first-round picks. Because, I mean, here's the thing. After you get past about 20, most teams don't have more than 20 first-round grades on players. And so then you're taking on what their board is a second-round pick in the first round. So what does that look like? How much do they love one of these guys that they're going to overvalue him enough to go ahead and pick him in the first round? A lot of times that's need. A lot of times that's money. There are different things that factor in, but the different priorities cause things to look very strange in the last 10 picks of the first round always. Like, for example, Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson, I think, is a first-round pick because I think somebody's going to see him as an offensive lineman he played every position in college. Right. He played guard, tackle, and center as well. Don't know what he is in the NFL. Coach Mack thinks he's a guard to start with. But, I mean, he's a first-round pick. He could also be pick number 50 because somebody may say, and several teams may say, they're worried about his injury situation with the knees or that they just have bigger needs overall.
No doubt about it. We're on with Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans.
Mike, you're talking about guys who are maybe moving up or moving down in the draft. It's interesting because Elijah Moore is a player who a lot of Titans fans are in love with. They love the guy. They saw him play at Ole Miss. We're right in the middle of SEC country. Well, everybody had him in the second round until the last few weeks, and now everybody's got that dude in the first round, and a lot of people have him going before pick 22 now. It's interesting. He hasn't played another game. There's no new tape on him. But, boy, you get closer to the draft, and dudes go up and down. Maybe they're not in NFL war rooms, but with the mock drafters and all of us, they go up and down like crazy.
It's fashionable. And listen, Elijah Moore may go 13th in the draft for all I know. But you do get the fashionable guys, and then the guys on TV who are doing the coverage are going to say, well, because they rated him a certain way, and the teams don't seem – I mean, Elijah Moore is one of those players that's a little difficult because he's going to be more scheme-specific due to his size. He just is. And, so is there somebody that sees him as that fit? Or are there teams that say, listen, I can get, Rondell Moore from Purdue in the third round, and I'll go take a linebacker right here because I don't think the linebackers are as good when you go further. So, again, it's sweetened to taste, so to speak, when you or salt to taste when you're doing a recipe. That's what the teams are. A lot of it with guys like him become what the taste is in your offense, what you need at this moment. But yeah, I mean, he's a very popular player. I don't think he's, I don't think he's going to last real long in this draft, but is there a guarantee he's a first rounder? No.
John Robinson did the pre-draft Zoom, and we were all looking at it like hieroglyphics on a cave wall, trying to figure out, every nuance, everything he might have meant by everything that he said. But it felt like, though, when he was done, we all looked at each other and said, they're just going to take the best guy available. That's just who he is. That's just what he does. And he said, sometimes it matches up. the best guy available is a guy at our need right now. But that doesn't always work out that way. And, again, we all thought we're going to draft a tackle. I mean, no matter who you're in love with, he's taking the best guy available on his board. That just sure seems like who he is and what he does.
Well, I mean, he's trying to hit it right down the middle of the fairway. You know, that's what you really want to do with the first-round picks is you want to drive it down the middle of the fairway, because if you get that guy who really, fits that need but also gives you tremendous value, then you have won big, particularly because the 22nd pick in this draft is not terribly expensive. The second pick in the draft is expensive. The 22nd is not. And so from that standpoint, if you get a guy who becomes a starter pretty quickly, then you've done something really, really good for the franchise. John Still, though, is looking for value. He would like to be able to pick one of the guys that he's got a first-round grade on at that spot at number 22. That would be what his number one goal would be to be able to do that. I think it would be really exciting for both he and the Titans if one of those players is still there.
On with Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Mike, we're still talking about first rounders, and you are the perfect person to ask this because you know all the history of the Titans. We had Keith Bullock on yesterday and Michael Griffin. Kind of take us through what you recall during their draft process, and then maybe a favorite play that you always remember about those two individual players once they became Titans.
Whoa.
Keith Bullock was the player I thought they would end up picking, and we had to wait so long. It was the longest
30.
first round in history that we were doing a draft party at Nissan Stadium, and we actually left the draft party and finished our draft coverage back at the studio because it was so they kicked us out of the stadium because it lasted so
long. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean we had to wait longer for Keith Bullock than I had to wait for either of my two children. It was forever, but it was certainly well worth it. And what he did to Drew Brees on Monday Night Football in 2007 is still my favorite. But there were so many. I was admittedly president of the Keith Bullock fan club. I think I still am. Seeing him pick up the Peyton Manning fumble in 2002 after Tank Williams made the big hit and run it back in Indianapolis, the block kick in 2008 and the recovery in the end zone in Cincinnati. Just big play after big play. The way he stood up after wins and losses and was always willing to talk. I mean, he was a cornerstone of our franchise. Michael Griffin, I didn't have any clue they were going to pick him until the day before the draft. No clue. I'm not even sure I really knew who he was.
I don't believe that.
No. Because we didn't think they were going to take a safety. And if you'll remember, we needed a corner, and Michael Griffin was initially brought in, and they played him at corner.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was why they picked him. Somebody gave me a hint the day before the draft that they could pick him because the Titans saw him as a corner. And so I went scurrying back up to my office, slammed the door shut, and locked myself in there for 2 hours going, who is this guy? Because I hadn't studied all the safeties. I'd been studying all the corners. And sure enough, that was the pick that they made. Michael Griffin made a lot of big plays for us. He played a lot of good football. The key to Michael Griffin is he showed up week in, week out. When we had good teams, when we didn't have good teams, big games, small games. Michael was another player who was very accountable all the way through. And really, I think was an underrated Titan overall. Again, they tried to sell him as a corner. They tried to play him at corner. When they finally moved him to safety, he found his home.
Well, Mike, I have to ask you, give us your bold prediction. What will happen with the 22nd pick? Will they move up? Will they move down? And who will they pick at 22?
I think there's a very good chance they don't pick at 22.
Well,
because I think it's going to be crazy tonight. I think we had, when I was filling in on J. Martin Ramon last week, we had Pat Kerwin on the show, and Pat Kerwin said one of the big things that's there right now in the NFL is you have GMs willing to make trades. He said, when I was in the front office with the Jets, he said there were GMs that were not willing to make trades. And he said, now there's a bunch of them. So I think you're going to have a whole lot of shaking going on tonight. And so, I mean, that would be my bold prediction, is that they pick somewhere other than 22.
Yeah, we heard it here. Mike Keith with the bold prediction.
I don't know about that.
Moving around in the draft. Voice of the Titans, Mike
I think
Keith.
there's going to be a lot of moving. I do.
Whoa.
I think you're going to, particularly in the back half of the first round, I think you're going to have some people trying to get their guy because they feel certain about some players and not so certain about a lot of others because of the medical stuff. And I know Mickey's talked about this a lot. They were not happy with the medical information that they got out of the quote-unquote combine in Indianapolis. They are so used to so much more information, and there are teams that are just not very confident in the entirety of this draft because they did not get as much medical as they normally do, and that scares teams to death.
No doubt.
Home with Mike Keith, the voice of Titans. Yeah, we were talking about this even earlier. Again, Mike, I brought it up. You've got a whole class of college athletes, young men and young women, who are going to schools they've never been to. They're showing up with a suitcase, and a new comforter in the fall, and they've never been on that campus. Not all of them, but a lot of them. This is the least amount of information maybe about any draft class in modern history. They used to just draft guys because somebody's cousin said the guy was a good player for the Decatur Staters or, something like that. But this is a bunch of people. Some of these guys have played like 12 games or 15 because they didn't play last year. They were a one-year starter who didn't play last year, who then didn't go to a combine that didn't happen, and some have injury concerns. No problem, right? Just pick some of these guys.
Well, and you don't know, does somebody have, a shoulder issue that's always going to give them trouble, or do they need a surgery before they're even going to be able to play? Does somebody have a foot problem that needs to get fixed that they would usually find at Indianapolis in late February, and now they won't find it until May. And so even if it's not the worst news in the world, it could certainly be inconvenient towards the 2021 season when you're going to need a lot of these guys to play. I mean, there are several teams in this league that are going to need 8 or more rookies to make their roster for salary cap reasons. The Titans may well be one of those.
Yeah.
And so not having that information, I mean, if a guy needs surgery in May or June that would normally have it around the combine, and you're not sure that he's going to be ready to start training camp, I mean, it makes you very nervous. Does that mean teams take sure things, particularly in the first round? I think everybody and their brother is going to try to get out.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that. So I think you may have to go up and get your guy. But again, remember this, you don't want to trade away picks because you need numbers. So what you may see teams do is swap picks in certain rounds because they need 8 players or 9 players or whatever. That may be a real trend in this draft, and it has started to become more of a trend in recent years.
And then the last thing I was going to bring up was Coach Mack always says is there's a quarterback draft and then there's everybody else's draft.
Right.
And think about the Titans drafted a quarterback in the first round, second overall, just a few years ago. He's obviously now he's not in Oakland, he's in Las Vegas. Here's how the Titans got their starting quarterback. They traded with the Dolphins. They got Ryan Tannehill and a 6th-round pick in exchange for a 7th-round pick and a 4th-round. That's how they got Ryan Tannehill. He's already gotten a contract extension, may very well get another one. It's crazy to think teams will mortgage so much of their future. And then look at how the Titans got their starter and other teams too.
Well, no one move is off a cliff ender anymore because of people willing to trade and the salary cap. I mean, it's like what Jason Licht in Tampa traded a 3 and a 4 to move up to the 2nd round and draft a kicker, and he flamed out. Yeah. And everybody said that's what Jason Licht would always be known for, and now he's the Super Bowl winning GM. Yeah. So no one move kills you. No one draft pick is the end of the world. No one draft pick makes everything unless it ends up being Russell Wilson at number 75 or Tom Brady at 199. Usually it's about a lot more of a draft class, and you're still not going to hit on all of them. It's going to be about a batting average. I mean, listen, if you told me that we'd make 3 second-round picks in 2016, and one of them would end up being the best running back in the game. Another one would end up being a backup, and the other one would basically not ever really play that much. I'd still take the deal. I'd still take the best running back in the game to get there and have to go through Kevin Dodd, which was and then Austin Johnson, who's in the league. I mean, he's not a great player, but he's a role player in the league. Again, it's about batting average. And fortunately for the Titans, I say John Robinson is Rod Carew for our older audience.
Google Rod Carew, kids, and you will find a man who was the singles hitter of mine and Mike Keith's generation. Of course, he and the hit king, Pete Rose. Mike, great stuff, man. Appreciate it. We know you're busy. 6 o'clock tonight, it's go time on Titans Radio with draft coverage. Nobody does it better than you guys.
Thank you. I'm coming to Tin Roof for a little while, too, with Brett and Dawn. I'm looking forward to that.
All right.
Cool.
Meet the VOD at the Tin Roof, no doubt. Mike Keith.
And Slay, too, right?
Ron Slay, too.
Slay,
too.
Yes,
of course. Get on that sleigh ride.
That's my guy, Ron Slay.
How can he be everybody's guy? I'm nobody's guy, and Ron is everybody's guy.
You've always been my guy, Mickey. You've always been my dude.
Ron is so much cooler than me.
Ron Slay.
I know. Darn it.
But you're not Ron Slay.
I want to hate him, and I can't because I like him so much, and he's so cool, and everybody likes Ron.
Especially those videos he be putting out.
He's like the coolest guy alive.
He is. We were lucky to have him, that's for
My
sure.
head was looking kind of big on that video, man. I don't know where you got that.
Mike, thank you, man. It's going to be a fun time tonight. We'll all be listening.
See you guys. Thank you.
All right, Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans. Hey, who do you want in the first round? What kind of craziness? You want the Titans to trade up, trade down? Like I said, if we are not talking to a guest today, we'd love to hear from you. 615-737-1045. It's Blaine and Mickey live from Tin Roof. That's right, the OG on Demumbrian here on Blaine and Mickey.
All right, y'all up in 4, 3, 2, little rack on tours.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Little Nashville rock and roll, the Rack On Tours. Man, I was working in the yard the other day and just turned on these guys on shuffle, and I got a lot of work done, man. I was inspired by some good music.
Oh, well, I want to get you inspired by breaking news.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's going to shock you. Tim Tebow worked out for the Jaguars at tight end.
His guy is there.
Yes, of course. Tim Tebow, let it go.
Oh,
move on. You can make more money broadcasting and do it forever.
Nobody wants to kill you broadcasting. Your knees will hold up. Shoulders.
Man, let it go, bro.
Your neck.
He's going to baseball. Now he wants to be a tight, H-back tight end guy when he didn't even want to try to do that last
Remember
time.
if he'd done that, 7-8 years ago?
Yeah, that's what I said he was.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, he had a little bit of success there, with the Broncos.
Sure did.
It's the Steelers. So that kind of teased him along to make him really think he'd get it done at quarterback. But, man, I'm a fan of Tim Tebow. How can you be against him? But I don't want him to play football. I just want him to keep him. He need to go upstairs. They should have hired him like in the front office or something.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Well, maybe Herb will hire him in some capacity after this.
Yeah, and then he'll leave for like 3 years or 5 years, then come back to broadcast?
Maybe, because he seems to be doing that with everything.
Yeah.
Football,
because he's good. He's really good.
As a man who switched jobs a few times in my life, I can respect that.
I've switched jobs only because I was forced to. they held a gun to my head.
That's the one thing about football. It kind of switches you. Right? You don't often get to say, I'm done. Most of the time, football will do that. It'll tell you. Told me in middle school, hey, man, you're going to get
it's
killed
not fun, man.
here.
I was just the other day when I was just going to do a checkup. It's like write down all your surgeries. It just got really depressing. It was like, 2 scopes on my ankle, 3 on my knee, 3 on my shoulder surgeries, my finger, hand, wrist, forearm. I go, oh, man, I've had a lot of surgery. I don't think I want to do this. I got to go.
I have walked through, Brent Doherty's here. We've walked through airport security with you before.
Went off on my forearm.
People with plates and things. Yeah. And when you get up there, you're 15 feet away, and they're like, Blaine, come on through, man.
Right. I know. Because they
know you.
I know because it's going to beep. And I'm like, well, I got a plate in my forearm. I played the next week after they did a miraculous job on the surgery. But, man, you talking about some teary-eyed games and some plays that I had that when I hit because I started using it as a weapon, but it really
the club, right?
Yeah. But I really, no, not the club, like ball fist, it was on my arm.
Oh, but you had the club later.
Yeah, that was because of my thumb.
Okay, that was
I dislocated my thumb.
Okay.
And so it wouldn't stay in place, so they had to put 3 pins in it to keep it down.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was that wasn't fun. That thing there. I thought Elrod was lying to me when he said I broke my forearm. Yeah, because he grabbed my hand and twisted my wrist, and he says, how'd that feel? I said, I don't feel nothing.
Oh, you didn't?
No, because of my adrenaline. I was in the game. I was standing on the sideline. And what's so bad, he was just standing next to me. We were just standing out there looking at the play. And he was just looking at my arm and said, man, there's a knot on your arm. I said, that's probably a bruise. Somebody probably hit me with their helmet right there.
You had no idea.
No idea. Gosh. He says,
you were jacked up, dude.
Oh, I was always jacked.
No doubt.
Yeah, I was always jacked, as you could tell on the radio.
Yeah. You bring it. I like it. Bring the heat. Luckily, he will never break an arm doing this.
No, I definitely will not. This is much more comfortable, man. The only thing, my 3 herniated discs there, kind of gets out of place sitting so much. So I got to get up and move around.
Got to get Kirby to get you a better chair. We asked for you,
Kirby.
We asked for you guys to play GM. Chris from Memphis calling in. Gosh, man, Memphis barbecue always hits the spot. Chris, who you got the Titans picking tonight at 22?
Well, I would definitely say, by the way, how y'all doing? Blaine, it's a pleasure to talk to you. A future Hall of Famer.
I wish.
Definitely.
Thank you.
I would say, hey, no problem. I would say at 22, I would probably go with either a Greg Newsome, maybe look at Christian Barbour. Hopefully he's coachable. I'll be shocked if Ojulari or Phillips is still there. For Elijah Moore, if you trade back and you could get him, I'm fine with that. But when Mike Keith was on, they did an OTP podcast, and what was shocking to me, was Kyle Pitts was on the board late at 18. Would you have considered trading up? I think I would have at least really thought about trading up. Go get Kyle Pitts, answers your question at receiver and tight end. But I appreciate y'all taking my call.
Yeah, that might have been a typo. I
didn't see.
I don't think he'd be at 18.
If he was, I would have moved up.
What does it take to get to 18? Yeah, he's there, 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. But I don't think that was the case. Maybe that was a mistake.
Yeah, that sure seems like. I recently got an eye check. Maybe that would be a good idea there because there's no way that dude's going to lie. He could kill somebody today and probably still go in the top 15. Like kill someone in public view. And they'd be like, well, but I mean, he's still a real – he's got all the tools. We'll see if, maybe he can get
I was wondering where you was going to go with that. He could kill someone.
Well, I mean, he there's nothing's going to bump him to 18 is what I'm getting at. He probably can't kill someone, but he could probably do a lot of things today and still go in the top 5 or 6. What Atlanta does at 4 is one of the biggest stories in the draft to me. What do they do at 4? Matt Ryan's wondering, what are they going to do at 4? Going to get a quarterback?
No players thinking about that they're going to take a quarterback or the position. They look and see and they go, oh, he's not going to beat me out. So I don't think. And then they redid his contract, so he's at least going to be there this year. I think for another year they redid it. So yeah, I think Matty Ice is going to be there for a minute, but they can still take a quarterback.
No doubt.
That's where I would. That's why I use them as an example.
Trey Lance,
right? I think because I got a quarterback there that's going to be there for a couple more years. But I would. I think they're going to go Pitts. Tight end in that offense?
Arthur Smith?
What?
Yeah.
A more athletic, faster Jonnu Smith? Longer? Wide receiver / tight end?
Yeah.
Oh, man, he's salivating right now. He's slobbering.
Steelers took one of those dudes last year, and he flourished. And this guy's supposed to be better than that guy, like better than all the guys. So, yeah, Arthur Smith. Just walk it up there, man. Don't overthink this one, Art. That's a weapon for you. Second hour of the show coming up. Oliver Hodgkinson, about 20 minutes away with the Pro Football Network draft expert. It's draft day. We'll talk to a draft expert. Of course, it's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
today at 3. Now it's time for Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
And 4, 3, 2.
Woo! Blaine and Mickey, hour number 2, live from the OG. If you ever hung out in Nashville in the last decade or so, you've hung out here at the Tin Roof at DeMummery, and you may not remember it, but you did hang out here. Boy.
Why did Will Bowling and Kirby over there like, yeah, I know, man. I had some fun times here, man. I don't even remember what happened.
This is one of those spots. You can find something to drink here. You can find something to eat here. Heck, you can find 104.5 The Zone here because we're here. I mean, the gang is all here. Buck did his show. Blaine is here. Mickey is here. Brent and Dawn. And the new addition, Ron Slay, who's everybody's guy, which we're talking about this with Mike Keith.
Well, it's because he has a sleigh.
Fellow Vol for life like Ron. And I'm like, Ron is everybody's guy. Like, nobody doesn't like Ron. And wouldn't it be nice to just walk around and think everybody loves me? Because that's Ron. Yeah. He needs to wear his headband again, though. That's the only thing that could take him to the next level.
The headband, with that, that made him stand out. But, no, everybody doesn't like Ron. They just don't tell him that they don't like Ron. Let's just say that, And all those people out there listening, you don't have to be liked or loved to be important. You don't need that to vilify and tell you that you're great, or that you're a good person. So when somebody says that all the time, you better just start checking them. There's too many people saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, when people start telling me that all the time, I'm like, nah. Oh, Blaine, you're a Hall of Famer. Oh, no, I'm not.
I don't know, man.
As long as I am in my heart, that's all that matters.
Hey, for all those people, you are in some halls of fame, though, including the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, I made a few, but...
yeah, I was there that night. I got a picture on my phone of you on the podium up there with your plaque and me looking like, that's my guy.
Well, the reason why I say that, nothing with Ron Slay, but it's all in this whole generation about likes. Oh, he didn't like my stuff. I don't have that many likes. Oh, they don't like me. Really? Seriously? That's what makes you important? No. If you fall into that trap, you will lose.
Some life advice there from Uncle Hitman. I appreciate that. No doubt. You can't base if you're looking for likes on Instagram to justify things, we got to find you some more stuff in life.
Or the Twitterverse.
No doubt. Although, a few likes on Twitter, never a bad thing. Hey, speaking of Twitter, Blaine sent shockwaves through the bar. Everybody starts jumping up and down. He goes, hey, man, have y'all seen this? Tom Pelissero, 49ers reached out to the Packers on Wednesday about trading for Aaron Rodgers. And he says that, and we all start asking him questions, and he goes, but this is the second half of it. No formal offer was made, and the source said there's a 0% chance that Green Bay deals the reigning NFL MVP.
So here's my point to a national reporter. What? So then why did you report it?
To get clicks, to get likes. We're all liking it.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay. I didn't either.
No,
but then Ian Rappaport,
because I want it to happen. I want it to happen.
Oh, I do too. I want straight bananas to happen tonight. Mike Keith hinted that might happen when he was on with us earlier. Here was the other one. Blaine sent shockwaves through the bar. Everybody knows Tim Tebow around SEC country. Ian Rappaport reporting Tim Tebow recently worked out for the Jaguars, and there has been at least some discussion of him signing. Oh, and he's a tight end now. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, because they get Trevor Lawrence in the quarterback.
There's no question he is not throwing a football at anybody.
Yeah, man. I think he can get away with playing some H-back tight end, man. I envision him, kind of a, Frank Wychecky type guy. Yeah, if he works on his route run. Frank was really good.
Boy.
He really helped me prepare with covering guys because he could run routes really good.
Blaine, Tim Tebow is 33 years old.
Why is he doing this?
He's 33 years old.
Tim, just stay in the booth. Okay, bro, you're doing a great job. You can go around and speak and make, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And nobody hits you. Not even a ball.
Nobody.
Not a baseball either.
Yeah.
Just stop. Let it go. Let it go. Hey, 33, man, that's when I retired.
33. 33.
I did, Kirby. It's okay.
And you think about football shape, he ain't seen a football field in how long? And he was a quarterback the last time he was on a football field.
But he talking about going to a contact position. And you hitting somebody every play.
Every play.
Nah, I highly don't recommend that.
What if when things didn't work out with him playing quarterback for the Jets or Patriots or whoever he ended with, it's been so long ago now, if he'd listened to people at that point and they'd said, look, try H-back or tight end. Now, at that point, that would have made some sense.
It would have. It really would have. But right now, Nah, this ride it on out, man. You're not like you're going to be making a whole bunch of cheddar playing H-back. Seriously. I don't think he'll make more money than if he was broadcasted. I really don't.
And speaking, like you said.
And speaking engagement?
Right.
Yeah,
Combine those two. And your knees and your think about your shoulders. 33. You come out of retirement, and it's like you got to block people now. You got to keep people away from Trevor Lawrence.
It hurts me, too, because I love me some Tebow.
No doubt. No doubt.
I just want to keep him in the booth. I ain't want to play baseball after football was over. Hey, man, you doing a great job. Great mentor for a lot of people. Man, let's keep it rolling, man.
Yeah. Interesting to see what happens with Tim Tebow and the Jags. Urban Meyer, though, that's his guy. He's there now. Saw this morning. Jay Glazer reported, goes back a little while from earlier today. Gosh, draft day is like 68 hours long. Jay Glazer reported the Saints were trying to move into the top 10, but not for a quarterback. Do you believe that for a second? Is there anybody, unless it's Kyle Pitts, who's supposed to be a generational, is there anybody? But if you went in the top 10, I guess you could get the top cornerback. They lost Jackrabbit because he's here now. Would you really do that much moving of heaven and earth?
Their corner was Lattimore, and he was the stud. Jackrabbit was the 2 guy.
Oh, right.
Right. But I think they're moving up probably for a DB. I think they're moving up for a DB. To 10. I think they're trying to beat the Cowboys to one of the maybe Surtain.
Well, maybe so. But yeah, the report, and yesterday there was a report that they were just trying to get ahead of the Titans at 22. There's Ron Slay, of course, announcing his presence.
Oh, man. What's up?
Honking his horn out there.
Bringing the sleigh right. That was you honking that horn, wasn't
yes.
it? I
disturbing
knew it was
the
you,
broadcast sleigh. The sleigh just parked out front with 8 tiny reindeer.
He looked like he'd been to the Titans pro shop and everything. He got his little bag here with his backpack, walking in here, towering over everybody. I want to ask him, where's your headband? Where's your headband?
He may have a headband in the bag. Oh, look at him. He's already doing it. All right, he's doing his Zoom for the Zone. All right, while Slay does a live hit on the Zone social media, let's bring in Pete from Nashville to talk about Caleb Farley, guy who's been mocked to the Titans a lot, but he seems like one of these guys who's sliding. What you got, Pete? Welcome into Blaine and Mickey.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Before I get into it, Blaine, I just want to say to you, man, I really appreciate you as a person, man. Obviously, you probably get a lot of people that come up to you and talk to you, but I will say that you were doing your broadcast outside the Titan Stadium when we had our playoff game against the Ravens, man, and it was you were just the politest athlete I've ever met, man. So I really appreciate you, man, being that guy for the fans, man. We love you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Enough of that, guys. So, obviously a fan favorite is going to be Elijah Moore. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with that, but I'm really, 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 truly intrigued to see if Caleb Farley would slide to us at that position, or even if we got, if we traded back and then he still slid to us. If it wasn't for his injury, Caleb Farley would probably be going, I would say, top 10. He's top 10 talent, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So having a guy like that, I mean, I'm looking at it almost like Jeffrey Simmons, right? Jeffrey Simmons would have probably been top 10 talent the year we drafted him if it weren't for his injury. So I'm wondering if we'll take a chance on this guy. I hadn't heard anything negative. Have you all heard anything negative about his work ethic or anything to that nature to where we would, be cautioned from him?
No, nothing at all. I talked to someone who was close to the whole situation, and they actually coached him when he converted from wide receiver to DB, and he said the guy's a great talent, great kid, hard worker. The back situation was one where he felt like that it wasn't something that was major. They kind of parlayed it as it could have been fixed in one shop, the initial injury, but they only fixed some of it just to kind of getting back on the football field and ready to go the next season. So I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as people making it. But, you don't get the physical reports, that can scare you. No doubt about it. And it's your back. Back affects everything. Once that back goes, ooh, that's tough sledding there, man.
No doubt.
You got to shut it down. So if he drops, he's there at 22, I'd go for it. No doubt. And I know but a lot of people are like, oh, you can't miss on this one. Hey, I'd go for that one. He's that kind of he's a top 10 talent, as the caller said.
And for all of us who say, well, gosh, we don't know. Well, guess who knows? The Titans or any team that's looking at him, they're doctors. They get full they get medical evals, and their doctors get to look at everything. So they know a lot more than we do about the guy. Yeah. They get to see everything.
Yes, and I'm not looking at any doctor reports. I'm going about what somebody told me. So.
No doubt.
Yeah. So, and also now he's cleared to be around his family with COVID that he tested. He's clear now.
Yep.
So, I think that was all a plan because they don't want him to be at the draft. And if he drops, he's going to be sitting there being the focal point of the draft and not being drafted. So I think that's what that did there. Drew Rosenhaus, I think that's what he parlayed there. Matter of 3 days now, all of a sudden, he can be around family.
He tweeted this morning he's negative. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It just so happened on draft day.
Yeah.
Boy, the Titans, they took Big Jeff, like everybody's saying.
Which was a surprise to me at that time,
right.
too.
Yeah. I mean, he was considered top 5 talent by a lot of people.
Yeah, they believe that, too. And he's kind of lived up to the billing. One more step is to be a solidified pass rusher.
Get after that QB.
Consistent, yeah.
Got a break.
We got to get after, not a QB, but we got to get after Oliver Hodgkinson, Pro Football Network draft analyst. He joins us next. We got to talk about some of these guys that are going to get drafted tonight. We'll do that next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone, live from Tin Roof on Demonbreun. be here until 6 o'clock today. Brent and Dawn, and yes, the Ron Slade will be here 3HL after Blaine and Mickey is finished. We are making a draft call and all the way to the UK. Another slamming choice by Lucas for music as Oliver Hodgkinson joins us now with the Pro Football Network. Oliver, I understand it is going to be a long night for you, sir.
It's going to be a long night. It's been a long day already, but this is what we love, right? The NFL draft is Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Thanksgiving, any day you can think of. That's what the NFL draft is. I'm looking forward to it. I might not sleep until Sunday.
Well, Oliver, I got a buddy. I have to ask you, man. When we get off of here, I want you to teach me how to talk like that because I think that would help me and my wife, get along a little bit better.
We'll see what we can do.
All right, cool.
We had the voice of the Tennessee Titans on earlier, Mike Keith, who's the team's play-by-play guy, and he said, honestly, we were asking him, do you think this will happen tonight? He goes, I think it's going to be a crazy night. I think it's going to be a crazy night from start to finish. You've already got Aaron Rodgers mad. You got the 49ers and the Packers talking. I mean, what a start to the day. We're just past 2 o'clock here Central Time. But, Oliver, do you expect this to be a wild night, first round of the NFL draft?
Yeah, certainly will be. I think after Trevor Lawrence is the first pick and Zach Wilson looks a dead cert to be the second pick, after that anything can happen. And you referenced the San Francisco 49ers. They've mortgaged the house to go up to number 3 in the NFL draft, and 1 day before, we're talking about making a trade for Aaron Rodgers. It's crazy. Anything could happen. It's going to be an absolute wild night. One to keep an eye on all night long.
Oliver Hodgkinson joins us, draft analyst for Pro Football Network here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Oliver, I have to ask you, a little bit about, this is a late round guy. I think he should go a little bit earlier. This is a cornerback, Nate Hobbs. I don't know how much you know him from Illinois. I kind of trained him. I actually did train him for the combine, and I thought he was really athletic. I thought he was tough. He could play inside, outside. He had length. He's 6 feet. I thought he actually is as good as a first rounder the Titans took some years ago, and that's Adoree Jackson. So what were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I really like Nate Hobbs. I'm glad you brought him up. He's a guy that you don't really hear a lot of people talking about, but he's extremely athletic. You reference, some of the things he can do. He can play outside. He can play inside. He brings brings special teams experience as well, which you come into the NFL draft process and you're looking at guys in the later rounds. Those are the things that you want to see. It's going to make them valuable. It's going to be the difference between maybe a 5th, 6th, 7th, or undrafted free agent. But Hobbs is an incredible player that I haven't seen get much attention at all. So I'm really glad you brought him up.
Yeah. Who's rising right now and who's falling, you think? And I don't know if it's to be believed or not, but maybe it's just someone was overrated. Now we're coming to the conclusion that they're maybe not as highly rated and vice versa.
I think it's really difficult in this process because there's been quite a lot of movement. There's a lack of consensus at many positions as to who the top guys are. The defensive tackle class is one where I think you're gonna get a real mix of opinions, and you could be looking at maybe 2 guys that go in the first round, or you could be looking at no guys going in the first round. You look at a guy like Christian Barmore, who has been linked as highly as I saw a mock draft with Christian Barmore being linked to at number 11, which was absolutely outrageous to me. Wow. But he's a sort of player you could see the Las Vegas Raiders taking at 17. You could see him sneak in the back end of round 1 at 32 with Tampa Bay. But he's also a guy who could fall into the second round, same as Levi Onwuzurike, who's another defensive tackle at the top of that class. Some of those guys are really difficult to call. You look at some of the edge rushers; it's a pass rush class which is it's not got a standout of previously years. There's no Chase Young, there's no Joey Bosa, there's no Nick Bosa. There's a lack of a consensus there. A guy like Gregory Rousseau in my latest mock draft, I could see him fall into the back of the second round, or he could quite easily be a first round pick. There's so much There's so much that could happen, and it all falls on quarterbacks and wide receivers, I think, of what happens early on.
Right. No doubt about it. Well, Oliver Hodgkinson, NFL draft analyst with Pro Football Network. I guess one more for me, and that is I have predicted that the Titans are going to draft at 22 Azeez Ojulari. Do you think he'll be available then, and is that really a possibility?
Yeah, I think he could be available at that point. What you've got to consider with Azeez Ojulari is at the Indianapolis medical checks that happened last week, they did discover an issue there, a knee issue, which could see him plummet beyond the Titans and towards the back end. People talking about a second round potential with him because it's a easy for me to say, degenerative knee injury, which, you look at a guy like Todd Gurley and the state of his knees, that's a real big concern. But from a pure play perspective, I really like Azeez Ojulari, and I really love the fit with the Tennessee Titans. A guy who is athletic, he can bend the edge, he can get after the quarterback, he can make those plays that were sadly lacking for the Titans this last season. You look at some of the defensive statistics for Tennessee, near the bottom of the league in a lot of really important defensive metrics, things like pressure percentage, things like sacks, just a real lack of any pressure up front. So a guy like Azeez Ojulari, who could come pounding off the edge, going to make plays for the Titans, I think, he's a fit. I think it's likely that he could potentially be there at 22, and it wouldn't be a bad pick as far as I'm concerned.
Oliver Hodgkinson joining us, draft analyst, Pro Football Network. Really, what landed you on our radar was these guys know I'm a nerd and I read every mock draft I can find. You did a 4-round mock, and you hit all needs for the teams, like somebody who had actually done some homework on the Titans. Sometimes a 1 or a 2-round mock, Oliver, you're like, why in the world would they have them taking a safety here? I thought yours was dead on. You had them taking Greg Newsome first. They need a cornerback. You had Elijah Moore in the second. And let's just stop there for a second. This is a dude who seems to have – there were a lot of Elijah Moore in the second-round predictions. That doesn't seem like a thing anymore. It seems like he's kind of rocketed himself into the first round for most people.
Yeah, for sure. And this comes back to the uncertainty and the lack of a consensus at things like the wide receiver position. You talk about a wide receiver. So the top three are going to be Devontae Smith. They're going to be Jalen Waddle, who for me is the best wide receiver in this class. Then there's Jamar Chase, obviously. Right. So those are your top three guys. Then you look at your fourth wide receiver. You could have a Rashad Bateman. You could have a Kadarius Toney. You could have a Rondale Moore. And then you could have Elijah Moore. And I think that lack of consensus and a general need for teams to grab wide receivers. You look at the 32 NFL teams, wide receiver is one of the biggest needs that's out there for a lot of those teams. So a guy like Elijah Moore, when I sat down and wrote the mock draft, he seemed like a realistic potential pick at pick 53. I think it would be a real struggle now for Tennessee to land him with that position. You may be looking to have to trade up early in the second round. He may even be gone by the time that you select at 22. It's one of those draft classes which, if the dominoes fall one way, it's going to have a dramatic impact further down the line.
Yeah, Joe Tryon is one of the third-round picks. He's an interesting edge prospect. He doesn't seem to be getting a lot of different heat, maybe from people who are mocking drafts and that kind of thing. But if you watch his film, he certainly physically checks all the boxes, and he looks like a guy who can really chase and pursue also.
Yeah, and to be fair, he's a guy that we talk about risers and fallers. Joe Tryon is a guy who's, again, rising up late in the process. He obviously sat out 2020, and I think with some of these guys, they kind of became forgotten commodities when they sat out in 2020. But he was extremely productive in 2019. I think the problem with Joe is he kind of is that in between an outside linebacker and a traditional defensive end, and it's going to be a case of what is he going to be in the NFL? Is he going to bulk up a little bit and become a full-time defensive end, or is he going to play a little bit lighter and play as a full-time outside linebacker? And I think that's the issue with a guy like that. When there is some concerns about where his fit might be, where his ultimate position might be. It's obviously going to impact his draft stock more than a guy who you are certain you know what you're going to do with him.
For brevity's sake, you had him taking a tackle out of East Carolina as well, Deontay. I don't know if it's Deontay or Dante Smith. I think it's Deontay. But the other guy you had him taking was Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame. Boy, that's a guy that we really like, and Blaine and I have talked a lot about him. He's a willing and able blocker. Didn't get a whole lot of targets at Notre Dame, but goodness gracious, he just looks like he'd be a heck of a find for somebody maybe in the third round or so if you could get him there.
Yeah, and I think that's a likely range for Tommy Tremble. He's a guy who, again, he's not getting a massive amount of heat, but for some people that I know, they view him as the third overall tight end in this class. But you referenced his blocking ability, and he's more than willing and able. He's an incredible specimen, athletic specimen in blocking. He's not been given that opportunity at Notre Dame to show off his entire repertoire of pass catching skills, but he is a guy, when he's been called upon in the passing game, he's been more than able to contribute. But that blocking, imagine Derrick Henry running behind a guy like Tommy Tremble. It would be phenomenal. So he'd be unstoppable almost in the NFL.
Oliver Hodgkinson joins us, draft analyst, Pro Football Network, breaking down day one and more of the NFL draft.
Well, Oliver, I guess since we're talking about tight ends, I guess give us some more tight ends, probably middle round guys that are all around good, not just a receiver, but also good blockers, maybe that fits the scheme and system a little bit better here in Tennessee.
I don't know if you'd be able to get him late in the third round with that 100th overall pick of the Titans in the third round, but Hunter Long is for me, he's the third best tight end in this class. He has been, especially last year for Boston College, a phenomenal pass catching tight end. Boston College got an offense last year with playmakers like Zay Flowers and the Notre Dame transfer Phil Jerkovich at quarterback, but Hunter Long was the guy. He was the go-to guy for Boston College. And he's probably not up there with Tommy Tremble's blocking capability, but he's more than willing. He's able in the blocking game. And, the pass catching upside with him is really intriguing. Hunter Long is a guy that I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves in this tight end class. And if you're looking for a pure receiving tight end, guy like Kenny Yeboah out of Ole Miss, tight end from there. He had an incredible season, and we've touched on Elijah Moore and what he did last season for Ole Miss in Lane Kiffin's offense. But Yeboah came over from Temple, transferred over, had an immediate impact on that Ole Miss offense under Lane Kiffin, and he's a guy who, again, you don't hear a lot of buzz about, but he's got incredible pass catching capability, and he could be a fourth round guy maybe.
Well, we have two, local guys, and you're saying that, and Tennessee guys that play for the University of Tennessee, and that's Josh Palmer and Trey Smith. Where do you see these guys going in the actual draft? What rounds?
Whatever round Josh Palmer gets drafted in isn't high enough as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
I absolutely love Josh Palmer. So I have a podcast in the UK, and I've pretty much week in, week out bang on about Josh Palmer. He's just been the Tennessee. I don't want to offend anyone, but the Tennessee offense hasn't been ideal for Josh Palmer. I think that's a fair way of putting it.
Yeah, that's fair.
The guy's been criminally underutilized, and therefore he's been underrated massively in this 2021 NFL draft process. But he's got everything that you want in an outside wide receiver. He can go up and make catches. The Senior Bowl, he was absolutely incredible. He just showed how well he can extend on the sidelines and haul in catches. Great size. He gets knocked for a lack of speed, but I don't think that's, for me, certainly doesn't. It's not an issue. And I think he's been discussed as maybe a fifth round wide receiver, fifth round, sixth round wide receiver. And I think he'll fall in that category just because of how deep this wide receiver class is. But he's going to be a star in the NFL. He's going to outplay his college production and certainly outplay wherever he gets drafted over this weekend. And then Trey Smith, Obviously, the medical history is a concern where Trey Smith's involved. But again, an incredible talent on that Tennessee offensive line. He's going to be up there with the best interior offensive lineman in this 2021 NFL draft class. It's just the worry is with the medical stuff, and we'll see how that impacts him over the next couple of days.
And lastly, for me, I have to ask you, I just think it's going to be weird, but I think the Titans are going to take a linebacker if they don't get the, what everybody else wants there, because both of their linebackers' contracts are up. So kind of give me, I guess, some first, second round middle linebackers that'll be available around 22 if the Titans stick at that spot that you think would be a good fit in Mike Vrabel's defense.
You've got to look at a guy like Zaven Collins, who, to be fair, has come out of the blue in the last couple of days. The Arizona Cardinals at 16 have got a real fascination and a real love for Zaven Collins. So it might be that at 22, he's a guy that's not around. But if you can secure a guy like Zaven Collins, I don't think for me, it doesn't bode to be a big need. When you consider cornerback, when you consider offensive tackle, and wide receiver, linebacker isn't a huge need as far as I'm concerned for the Titans. But if that's the direction they want to go, you could go much, much more wrong than Zaven Collins. The guy it's just a freak of an athlete, and he was extremely productive in all facets of the game last season. Came out of nowhere pretty much for Tulsa. But he showed he can rush the passer. He can be strong against the run. He can cover, insane athleticism. He's an old school guy. The guy's, recently tipped in at 270 pounds.
Wow.
Is the thing is now is what do you do with a guy that's that size? But he played between 240, 260 at Tulsa. 6'4", I think he is off the top of my head. He's an old school linebacker but contains some of the modern NFL skill set, and he's just that's one of the alluring things for him. He's going to come down and hit you in the mouth, but he's going to be able to do it with pace and with agility, and he can cover, and he can he's got decent ball skills. That sort of guy is. It's just a phenomenal get, really, if you can fit him into your system, and it depends on what weight he plays at. Then maybe a second or third round guy. I really like Nick Bolton out of Missouri. He's dropped down a little bit, I think, on a lot of people's draft boards. At some point, he was in that range with Collins, with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but he seems over the last few weeks to have dropped down maybe to a second or third round sort of grade for a lot of people. But again, he's a guy who can come downhill and hit you in the mouth, and he's got a really good backstory as well. And he's a guy that you'd want on your team, a guy you can pound the table for, a leader on the field. I think that's what you want in the heart of your linebacking group, right?
Absolutely. Oliver Hodgkinson. All right, on the way out, we got about 30 seconds or so left. If you're John Robinson at pick 22, you don't trade, you stick and stay. What's the dream scenario pick for you, Oliver, if you're John Robinson? Who is the run to the podium with the card guy for you?
You run to the podium with the card for Greg Newsome for me. You look at the past defense of the Titans last year. Look at the guys that have been lost. Yes, Janoris Jenkins comes in, but he's going to be 33 in the season. You want a young guy in there, a playmaker with ball skills. Greg Newsome is fluid. He's got incredible ball skills. He plays the game. It's the 3 Fs: fluid, fast, and fierce. And that's how I sum up Greg Newsome. And he's a guy that I'd pound the table for all day long. He's a great pick for the Titans. He'll be a great fit, a leader in that secondary for you.
Oliver, I will add a 4F. Fantastic job by you today, man. Thanks for staying up late, and enjoy your all-nighter as we all enjoy the first round of the NFL draft. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it, Oliver.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. Cheers. Oliver Hodgkinson, Pro Football time today at Tin Roof at Dunbury. I've eaten about 250 ham sandwiches and 100 or so things on a tortilla of some kind at my house over the last 400 plus days. So I came early and I had some delicious food from the Tin Roof at Dunbury. And you can do that anytime yourself. Come on by here. 3HL will be here until 6 o'clock today. All of our draft coverage brought to you by some amazing people. Our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Need great health care coverage at an affordable price? Let Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it. They've been protecting Tennesseans since 1947. And the amazing folks at Two Rivers Ford. Man, those Bronco sports that they're selling, me likey. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. I'd like to be a people who is driving one of those Bronco sports right about now. Appreciate them. Again, Tin Roof on Dunbury, Chattanooga Whiskey. And just some amazing, amazing sponsors. The Titans are selecting in the first round of the draft. If you want a chance to win a prize pack from Chattanooga Whiskey, go to 1045thezone.com/contest. And remember, tomorrow from 10 to 6, the station will be at 55 South in Brentwood, ahead of night 2 of the NFL draft. Blaine, Mike Keith joined us earlier today, and he was leaving, and you know, you always want to ask this because people say, it's crazy. What a crazy year. This is going to be crazy. Everybody always wants to say that. Well, the first round of the draft's not always crazy. But I thought just for kicks and giggles, because it does seem like a kind of a wild year, I'm going to ask Mike, does he expect this to be a wild night maybe? And this is what he eagerly said in return.
I think there's a very good chance they don't pick at 22. Because I think it's going to be crazy tonight. I think we had, when I was filling in on J. Martin Ramon last week, we had Pat Kerwin on the show, and Pat Kerwin said one of the big things that's there right now in the NFL is you have GMs willing to make trades. He said when I was in the front office with the Jets, he said there were GMs that were not willing to make.
Got about another minute here.
He said now there's a bunch of them. So I think you're gonna have a whole lot of shaking going on tonight, and so I mean that would be my bold prediction is that they pick somewhere other than 22.
Yeah, we heard it here. Mike Keith with the bold prediction.
I don't know about that.
Moving around in the draft, voice of the Titans.
I think there's going to be a lot of moving. I do. I think you're going to, particularly in the back half of the first round. I think you're going to have some people trying to get their guy.
30 seconds.
Because they feel certain about some players and not so certain about a lot of others because of the medical stuff. And I know Mickey's talked about this a lot. They were not happy with the medical information that they got out of the quote-unquote combine in Indianapolis. They are so used to so much more information, and there are teams that are just not very confident in the
10 seconds.
entirety of this draft because they did not get as much medical as they normally do, and that scares teams to death.
That's it.
So it was Mike Keith earlier, and he basically started saying, Blaine, he doesn't think the Titans will pick at 22 tonight. And they got 9 draft picks. One of the I think it was Mike Miracles, Music City Miracles. Buck was talking about him earlier today. Said the Titans had 16 draft picks total in the last 3 drafts, I think. They've got a chance to have 9 tonight. Obviously, if they move back, they could have 10 or 11 tonight. So maybe they do. Or do you think maybe some guy just gets to a certain point and they think, that's our guy, let's just go get him? They really need a lot of people. They need bodies. There's not a lot of people on the roster right now. I think they got $5 million in salary cap room or something like that. If you had to bet, you think up or back? I would think back tonight if they had to move one way or the other.
Yeah, but he said he don't think they have a pick. I mean, is he talking about into the second round, or is he talking about at the bottom of the first round?
I've seen 2 different, 3 actually.
I'm talking about what Mike Keith said. What do you think he's thinking when he said it?
I think he's thinking back.
Back where?
Back in the first round.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, okay. If it's back in the first round, I'm cool with it. I don't want to move out of the first round and go to second and pickups. I want a first round pick.
Remember, we'd seen.
I want to jump for joy today.
Right. Yes, it'd be a long night with no first round pick.
Yeah.
But we had talked about the one Peter King mock that had them going back, to 29, I think, with the Ravens, and still getting Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
And we put that on Blaine and Mickey Twitter, and it was like, yes,
it blew up.
Yes, please, yes, please.
I don't know, man. John Robinson, he's moved up, down, all around. But I'm thinking they're going to hold pat at 22 and get their guy. I'm going to call my shot. That's it.
Well, a day early on calling your shot.
I'm going to call my shot. That's my shot.
John Glennon tweeted this a couple of days ago. John Robinson has made 11 draft day trades. 9 times he's gone up. Yep. Twice he's gone back.
Yeah, he likes to roll the dice.
Up. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm saying hold pat. We'll see. Everybody's saying he's going to move. I'm saying hold pat at 22. I think this draft is crazy. Don't know where everybody's going with, not a lot of resources on getting their physicals in entirety. So making you feel comfortable as a GM, you want to know the guy, man. I hear that about Aziz Zalori, and they're talking about, basically some form of tendonitis or whatever. Man, it just shrunk me like, well, watch this. In my mind, I go, we can get 4 or 5 years out of him, though. Yep, then it'll happen. Then it'll go bad.
Right.
So I'm still hoping they get him. I'm going with him till I die.
Well, I got Christian Barmore. That was my guy. We're going to Thelma and Louise over the cliff with our picks. Aziz and Christian Barmore. That's who we picked. We'll see how it goes tonight. 3HL has got you covered until 6 o'clock here on Tin Roof at Demumbrian, including Babs, Ron Slay, Brent Doherty. They're next. We will see you tomorrow. Can't wait.
3HL.